Hello and welcome to the Game Football Podcast from The Times. North London are top of the Premier League after 2 games, with Arsenal and Tottenham both producing impressive performances in their second match of the season. Can Thomas Frank keep up the good times at Spurs after an assured win against Manchester City? And surely Mikel Arteta can have no more excuses for not winning a trophy, as his squad strength is shown in a 5-0 win against Leeds United. On today's show, we'll also talk Everton and Jack Grealish, Manchester United, Chelsea, Brentford and Burnley, and loads more. I'm Tom Clark, and joining me today we have the senior sports writer and Sunday Times columnist Alison Rudd, the football reporter Pete Rutzler, and the former footballer turned journalist Gregor Robertson is here. Rudd, Rutzler and Robertson. It's like a law firm in here today. Ready to go. 3 laughs. Get in, listeners. We've got them.
Oh, maybe we can sponsor our own stadium, because Everton Stadium is sponsored by a law firm.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good point.
Whose would we sponsor? Someone like really low down, probably, hopefully. If you're a very, very, very small football club, get in touch with us, because Rudd, Rutzler and Robertson want to help you out. Let's get straight into it, because as I say, there's loads and loads and loads to discuss on this show. We're only 2 games in, Gregor. If you think we got carried away last week, listeners, we're 2 games in now. The game's gone. North London, top of the league. I was in the office yesterday. Alison, you'll enjoy this. We work with quite a lot of Tottenham and Arsenal fans on the desk, on the production desk and on the editing desk. And I was in yesterday and they were all being so nice to each other. They were being so nice. Oh no, I thought you played so well. Oh no, I thought you did so well. No, so good. And it was so nice to see Gyökeres scoring. Yes, I know, fantastic. Oh, and I'm so pleased for Thomas Frank. It's all going so wonderfully well. Up in North London. It will not last. But it's very interesting, and to be fair to them, they've both got the 2 types of win that you need, don't you, to do very well in a season. Got the comfortable away win at home against a newly promoted side, looking completely dominant and scoring goals. Yes. Tick. And a good win away. Tick. Yeah. So they're flying. We've got a title challenge in North London. Gregor, it's all going off. But let's start with Arsenal, because I think that's the more genuine one. I was watching this game, parading Edinburgh Chiesa before the game. Injuries, but then more strength off the bench. Goal for Gyökeres at last, and then a second one. Dowman coming off the bench, 15 years old. They've got it all, haven't they? Is anyone not looking at this and going, I don't know how they don't at least definitely win something, surely, Gregor?
Well, you were struck by the strength and depth and the sort of contrast from last season. And even with the injuries to Saka and Odegaard, like Dowman is a joke. It's incredible just to just pause for a moment and think this kid's 15. He won't be 16 until December, and he goes on and he's just running Leeds ragged. Yeah. And the sort of pace and fluidity of movement that he's got, and it's incredible. And he, this isn't like a one-off moment. He's been wowing everyone in pre-season. He obviously won a penalty in this game. He won a penalty against Newcastle in pre-season. He won a penalty against Villarreal in pre-season. He's been making cameos that make people go, wow, all summer. And you feel like this is going to be a major breakthrough season for him. And, they've got Nwaneri as well. Yeah. And then Eze before the game comes in with just injection of joy into the stadium. Yeah. His face was just pure happiness with a hint of disbelief as well. That was just a lovely, lovely sight. So, and as you say, Gyökeres scoring an absolute carbon copy of scores of goals he saw and score for Sporting. Just that run into the channel, cut inside, boom, goal. It was a very, very happy day for Arsenal, and made happier by the fact that the 2 injuries don't appear to be as serious as was feared.
I was just with Dowman, just the psychology of being a left back, an experienced left back. Goodmanson's coming to Leeds. First game was really quite positive. I'm obviously throwing this at you, Gregor, but you're coming up against a 15-year-old, and you just wonder, please don't do this to me. And then he does within minutes, just sort of skips by him. I don't how do you process that?
I mean, it's going to be tough.
There was the bit at the moment, wasn't there? After about 15 minutes of it, and Goodmanson was on the floor, and I think he got booked. But he was almost on his knees going, why is this happening to me? Saturday afternoon, why is this happening to me live on telly? Why did this have to happen to me? This is an absolute nightmare.
Is that a point, though? Is it extra humiliating if the person making you look a bit of a fool is 15 years old?
It's a bit humbling.
Is it like being beaten at Scrabble by your 4-year-old niece? Is it like,
Probably, yeah.
is it
That's
like
probably
that?
a good
Well,
parallel.
there's a bit of therapy there for Alison.
Yeah, I mean, if 15-year-old kid's coming on, and there's a lot of hype about him, I think probably your first instinct. I know this is the modern Premier League now. Would be even though he's 15, probably lay one on him, and like Leeds will. I think if you can catch him, then good luck. You can try that.
Yeah.
But he's not in awe of it at all. When he was running past Goodmanson, he was wrestling with him and trying to hold him off, and then they tangled legs and he bought the foul. And his little turn as well in the halfway, and they gave him the ball, and he looked to go inside, and then he just sort of checked back on himself to go outside. It's like as soon as he gets the ball, he wants to do something that is going to hurt the opposition, and he's going to be a joy to watch.
Yeah, and what I liked about the whole package of that match was there is this theme developing of managers saying, need you to buy. Why aren't you buying me more? But at Arsenal, they're doing both. They're buying big and also they're nurturing, which is exactly as it should be.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be one or the other. It shouldn't be only one. It's nice to see a club that feels that in some respects, it's easier to bring through someone who's 15. And of course, Arsenal have a good track record in bringing through very young teenagers. But it's easier to do that when you also know you've got the comfort blanket of being able to go into the market and more or less buy who you want, more or less.
But then going back,
I suppose the only thing for them is that Nwaneri, part of this whole kind of machinations in the summer of even the Eze deal and how they were delayed was they wanted to make sure that Nwaneri was signed up to a new deal. There was like clubs, I think Dortmund were floating around. They got him done. Madueke is coming and Eze. So like they had these two talents coming through, but you do wonder what someone like Nwaneri's thinking when you see another wonder kid coming through on his shoulder and the signed two wide players.
but isn't that what the best and the very top
Of
teams
course
do,
it
isn't
is.
it? That's
Of
what
course
City
it is.
have done for years. I mean, this is the point, going back to it. Obviously, you're understandably excited about Daumann and quite rightly giving him praise. But even if you take him away, watching it and the idea that Saka and Odegaard were injured, but then you'd go, right, well, Rice and Zubimendi in midfield. Zubimendi, by the way, I think looks absolutely class. Then you'd have, let's say Madueke, Nwaneri and Eze behind Gyökeres. That would give any team in the Premier League a good game, especially if you've got that back four, which looks incredibly solid. And then even behind them, you have the likes of Lewis Skelly, Mosquera coming off the bench. I mean, have we not slightly missed in our pre-season previews that actually Arsenal have got the best squad in the league?
It's right up there. I mean, like the players you're talking about there, if Saka and Odegaard were lost again, you're still talking about players who aren't of their stature and their sort of proven sort of calibre.
I'm not denying it wouldn't be a blow, but
huge, enormous potential and like future superstars. But if they go to Anfield and it's a title-deciding game or whatever, then it's not the same.
best back
It's not
five
the same
in the
aura
league.
and sort of vibe about the team if you don't have your biggest and best players.
2 games,
available.
no goals conceded. Best back five in the league.
Yeah, but we knew that already.
Yeah. But then you've already added to it. That's what I'm saying. So it's
We
best
can
squad
make
in
a
the
case
league.
for best keeper as well now, with
Yeah.
David Raya. I mean, the number of errors we're seeing. Alison, you did a piece recently on that. I mean, Raya seems the most consistent now. I know he's always talked about his stature, but not the tall. But still 6 foot. But
Gyökeres is still the only question.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
great for him to get off the mark. As I say, great goal and like.
Well, there is
he's in the
another
penalties.
question. There is another question, isn't there? Is whether Arteta has
I knew
it.
this is the Arteta question.
Has the like you mentioned going to Anfield, which is imminent, and the whole putting up the speakers to recreate the atmosphere and playing "You'll Never Walk Alone." You can argue whether that is a good or bad idea, and I'm open to it being a good one, although I personally think it was stupid. But it's possible it was a good idea. But the mere fact that you overthink it, and there is an innate sense of being the underdog when you do that, given what we've just listed as the assets that Arsenal have, surely you have to behave like a team that believes it's going to win the title. And that's the step change, I think is the most important one.
Absolutely, and that we will see that, as you say, with that huge game coming up, and obviously we'll see more about Liverpool when they take on Newcastle tonight. But I mean, am I the only one getting carried away? Am I getting carried away, Gregor? You're looking at me with that slight.
Sounds that
chill
way,
out,
yeah.
chill out, son. It's only 2 games. They only beat Leeds.
Yeah, you're getting there. I mean, Yeah, look, it was a dominant. I thought, you're right. After the first week, we were like, crikey, Arsenal's relationship with risk is still a bit uncertain.
This is what I mean. We can't score goals. They look like they could have scored about 8.
Yeah, but they played Leeds.
Yeah, but Leeds
Leeds were good in the first game, but there's still a promoted team who, like, were miles off the standard. And like that's a shame in itself. We've had this conversation many times. This Leeds United coming up from the Championship, and they get smashed 5-0 by Arsenal. I don't think the imbalance should be that stark, but that's another conversation. Yeah, I wouldn't get too excited by a 5-0 home win against Leeds. I think, it's a long season. They do look like they have the depth to cope with the season. There are question marks that we've raised about Gyökeres, about Arteta's sort of disposition. Only time will tell on those two things.
Well, Arsenal fans, if you're getting carried away, get in touch with me, tom.clark@thetimes.co.uk, and we can just have a little chat, because I'm getting carried away. I'm convinced I'm going to change my entire fantasy football team based on that one performance. Tottenham fans, a lot of them all saying in the office, yes, I'm not getting carried away, but it was great. Oh my God, it was so great. And it was great. Alison, Thomas Frank doing what Thomas Frank does.
I know. Well, I mean, I'm not. This is the least surprising thing to me when you consider that it's a club with odd history and a manager who has no experience of managing a club with huge aspirations and are in the Champions League. I didn't really think that he would have a hiccup, and he hasn't. And what I love most about it is the contrast between what came before and what you have now. So you've gone completely from Tottenham being managed by somebody who didn't think set-piece practice was worthwhile, who kept his hands in his pockets throughout a match, didn't seem interested in tactical
Maybe
tweaking.
he's got cold hands.
No, it was all about...
kept his hands in his pocket. I didn't see that coming.
It was all about freedom and, just go and play, mate. That's not how you organise top-level football. And Thomas Frank is the polar opposite. He thinks about not just who the next opponent is, but the individuals in that opposition team. He thinks about what he has, how he can get the best out of him. Look at the way Richarlison looks like a complete world beater, and he looked like a southern nobody for half the time, didn't he, beforehand? It's about relationships with your players, knowing what they're capable of. He's incredibly humble, Frank. He keeps relating it back to this, I inherited a team with great camaraderie and so on. But he's instilling it. It is awesome to see someone who works hard getting the points he deserves.
He has got a completely
I think we've moved
fit
on.
back four,
I think we've moved on from the idea that you can just truck up and say, I just go out and play. I don't think you can do that anymore.
They didn't truck up. The problem was everyone knew
he also
how they
won
were
a
going to
trophy,
play.
Tottenham's first in 17 years. But anyway,
no, but the problem was that everyone knew how Spurs were going to play. They knew with absolute certainty that they were going to play suicidal passes out from the back from the goalkeeper, and you could press them to within an inch of the left. No, I have a point. I have a point.
Okay.
The point is that you don't know with any certainty how Spurs are going to play under Frank, so they can play direct. Although you have to say that the first goal, there were echoes of Spurs under Ange there. They always played that ball down. They always played it from the back, played that ball down the side. It was flicked on.
They also nearly conceded a ball, faffing around with it at the back, passing it out, and nearly did a terrible pass.
Yeah, but they mix it up.
I'm just saying.
Or they play like they did against Burnley, and then they play in a different way in this game. Or they look, as Alison says, they look at the opposition and they know that they can press from the front, play mark man to man, and hound City, and it's just like more adaptable, more serious, more like grown-up football. That's what it looks like already.
It's realistic. You go to the Etihad and you're unafraid to say, okay, well, for 20 minutes we might look outclassed. That's okay. I can accept that. We stay in the game for those 20. We do what it takes. Be as defensive as you like, as diligent as you like. Don't have to show off at all. If we can frustrate them for 20 minutes, then we can start to cause them problems. A lot of managers of top teams don't feel that they can be that humble and accept that they have to take what's on offer against them into their thinking. They think they have to dominate from the start. You earn the right to dominate a game, and I think that was a classic example of a team that was almost deferential but cleverly so, and then by the end were dominating because they earned the right to.
I think as you mentioned, there's still like a defensive injury away from not near crisis. You know, the same sort of vulnerabilities that we saw. But what I agree with is the degree of pragmatism you get with Frank. Even just a change in the midfield from first game of the season against Burnley to the one we saw at City, Sarr, Palhinha, Bentancur, a very viciously strong midfield three that were really, really effective. And obviously Palhinha's come in, and we all know how good Palhinha is, and he's made an immediate impact. That kind of interchanging between games, and that you wouldn't necessarily, I think, have got. You would have had a bit more dogmatic approach last season. That might be the difference that gets them. Certainly, we far more points than last year.
And again, the difference is a defensive injury would influence the way Frank approached the game.
Yeah,
it didn't influence Ange. It's like, okay, I'll put Archie Gray at the back and ask him to do the same things that Mickey van de Ven can do. You know, play the high line and be, you know, the quickest player in the league and be able to cover Spurs defensively. So that's what I'm talking about. There's more pragmatism, and even, you know, they don't have Kulusevski or Maddison to play as a number 10. Like, big absence, like dearth of creativity there. So in this game, he played Sarr, and like that was almost an attacking weapon in itself, because not just for the goal, his sort of front foot pressing and the way that he won possession back in the final third, created chances, created opportunities, and ultimately created.
So can we agree that pragmatism is not a dirty word then? I think it's often, when we discuss elite football, it's often seen as a negative in some way.
We talked about this a lot last season.
As though you haven't got quite enough, you're making up for deficiencies. I think a top manager, no matter who is in or out of his team, no matter how much it costs, can benefit enormously from pragmatism. But for some reason, the word, I think, has negative connotations. Actually, what it does mean is that you're quite clever.
I think it's losing those connotations. I think we spoke about this quite a lot last season, didn't we? About like managers who are completely wedded to one way of playing are increasingly finding great difficulty, because teams are so, you know, so intelligently set up. They prepare brilliantly now. They've got, you know, loads of analysts and whatnot who prepare right down to the finest detail about how the opposition play, and they can counter that. So if you know exactly what you're facing, then it makes it easier to face.
Yeah. Top 4 for Tottenham?
Why not?
Yeah, don't see why not. I think if they'd signed Eze, then that would have been the real game. It's like, oh, I actually think they could do that. I think one of the key things with any coach is in player improvements, and we're seeing that immediately with Richarlison. Yes, it's the new fresh start, and that can be a big change, but immediately you're seeing a coach have an impact on a player, and that's always a good barometer of who's actually a good coach and who's actually going to make a difference. And yeah, I think when you actually look around the squad, when it's fit, yeah, they could easily compete, and I think it will be tighter. So
yeah, good
maybe
times
they can get closer to
for Tottenham. Manchester City, then we bigged them up last week. Poor in this game, or did Tottenham do a job on them? I didn't think they were terrible.
What's going on with the keepers?
Yeah.
This is really interesting, isn't it? Like, they signed James Trafford. He's a great goalkeeper. Put him straight in. You still have this whole dilemma about what they're doing with Ederson. Is Ederson staying? Is he going? There's talk of Donnarumma, which doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make sense at
he's
all.
Not, like, Luis Enrique wants to move him on because he's not good with his feet. So why does that work for Pep Guardiola? So
it did underline how much of what we regard as a fluid City performance starts with Ederson, because he wasn't there, and it did feel like, you know, when you're trying to light the fireworks and you have to keep going back because it just won't take. It felt like that with them. It wasn't quite working, and they weren't getting that instant ignition from.
But
the
as
back.
much as he made a mistake, Trafford is good with his feet. I don't think in the games I've seen, I don't think he's bad with the ball at his feet.
It's about personality as well,
right.
isn't it? And confidence.
Yeah, there were quite a few of those sort of shaky moments in his season in the Premier League with Burnley. There were fewer of them last season, but then who pressed Burnley in the same way as Spurs press City? So that's another thing. Ederson's almost like like Spurs and microcosm. When he's got the ball at his feet, you can press City, but you always know he can just zing it over your head, and like you've got to be really aware of the other side of the game, the other alternative. So he's a weapon in himself. Like, good luck replacing that.
Very interesting. We'll see what Manchester City do about their goalkeeper situation and whether Tottenham can bring any players in before the end of the window. Pete and Gary Jacob and the rest of the Times team will be keeping you up to date, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled on the Times website. 2 other games on Saturday. Gregor, a word for Burnley. All 3 promoted sides off and running with 3 points each. Sunderland fans, huge apologies. Last weekend we said you were basically safe. You were going to finish in mid-table. You'd have 9 points before September. Turns out it's not actually that easy in the Premier League. But Gregor, a great win for Burnley.
Yeah, great win. Burnley, I still think that they're going to struggle for goals. Like Josh Cullen was
do that bit after. Do the nice thing first, and then do the.
Josh Cullen was inspiration. Great goal. Great goal. Pass for the second goal as well.
Lovely goals. Two lovely goals.
Brilliant. As well as all the other side of the game he does, the defensive stuff and leadership, all that. He was brilliant. But yeah, I stand by it. I think goals are going to be an issue for them. When they give themselves something to hold on to, we saw in this game that they're going to be adept at trying to hold on to it. But getting the goals to take the lead will be an issue. And Sunderland weren't bad.
Sunderland had chances as well. And I think Roos as well, again, another classic flip-flop. Last week he was great and making brilliant saves. I'm not sure what he's doing for the second goal, where he's kind of half come and then just thought, I'm all the way out here now. I might as well keep coming. If he just run back a little bit, he makes... I always remember watching like Peter Schmeichel interview where he talked about the thing you do as a goalkeeper is don't make the striker's decision for them. And then Roos comes and Anthony is just like, well, I'm just going to walk it round you, mate. You're obviously what I'm going to do from here. But yeah, very interesting time.
We'll have to hope Dan Ballard's injury isn't too serious. That was massive for Sunderland. But it's good that all three promoted teams have got 3 points by August.
Very early August. It teases up fantastically for Sunderland against Brentford next week. Because Brentford also, last week, down and out, complete crap. Keith Andrews doesn't know what he's doing. 1-0 win at home. Brentford are back. It's going to be fine. Pete Rutzer, you were there.
Yeah.
Firstly, I'm interested. What were the vibes like after last week? Very difficult summer, losing star players and the massive figure of Thomas Frank. What was the crowd like? The first home game of the season.
Were they all looking at Claudia Schiffer?
Well, there was a lot of kept panning to her on the screen. So, but no, there was a general. I think it's not an uncertainty, but it's like, well, where's this going here? That first game was quite difficult. We had so much change. It wasn't the same sort of new season excitement you normally get. But I think that's why the result was just huge. Absolutely massive for Keith Andrews. Huge for the team. Dango Ouattara scores. I think that if your eyebrows raised at how much they're spending.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
42.5.
Did he look good?
He did. And what's interesting is Brentford, I mean, this is what set them apart for so long, but they always like to think that they see things that others don't. And in Ouattara, they think that if he can play consistently every week, you're going to get a level that's not been seen yet. Time will tell on that, but he fitted in perfectly into the way Brentford wanted to play. Igor Thiago, the centre forward, offers them something a little bit different. I mean, the team that Andrews fielded was different to last week. You had Schade coming back. Mikael Damsgaard obviously missed the first game of the season. He's a wonderful player. Completely changed the way that they play in the final third.
Jordan Henderson.
Henderson's come in. He had an hour. Still getting up to speed, I think, a little bit. But what was encouraging is that it felt really familiar. This felt like a Brentford performance that we'd seen under Frank. It felt like it was of the same ilk. And Keith Andrews spoke about that, like trying to make sure we keep our identity. And that's what pleased him the most about the performance. I think obviously the flip side with Villa was that they looked incredibly stale, really stagnant.
It's an interesting start to the season.
Yeah, it is. Not great at all in the final third, not very creative. It's even some things that the setup was strange. We had John McGinn playing out on the wing, which I'm sure would have distressed Gregor if he was watching it.
John McGinn can do anything. Anything he wants.
The only winger.
Except run quickly. Can't do that.
Yeah, Alison, come on, it's only 2 games in. Let's all just get along, shall we? Don't wind him up about John McGinn just yet.
But Emery wants signings. Obviously, complained about PSR, but you also looked at the setup, and they had Doniel Marlon on the bench, who they spent 20 million on in January. Who's a winger, and you just think, well, even Boubacar Kamara went off injured. Massive blow for them. He's a really important midfielder. Brings on Buendia, a player that everyone sort of expects to go, and leaves John McGinn on the wing again. And they're playing against a Brentford team that was sitting very deep in a very Brentford way, dogged, committed. Didn't stretch them at all, not until about a 15-minute spell at the start of the second half.
But you've still got Ollie Watkins in that team starting. top level Premier League striker. Morgan Rogers has just won Young Player of the Year. Tielemans had a great season last season. You say stagnant. Are these players just look like they're tired or already not refreshed, or what are we talking about?
It's exactly that. There's nothing that feels refreshed about it. It's been the same sort of. You could say it from a narrative perspective. It's been very similar. It's that frustration about we're not investing, we're not doing all these different things, and then on the field, it just felt the same way. I think it was more structural. It just felt very. The lack of width was so obvious within the game, and particularly in a game like this, and all of their chances seem to be stemmed around set pieces, which is never really a good thing. And they're in an interesting position because they seemingly can't invest because of their PSR limits, so they'll probably look at loans and things like that. But you also think, we looked at the numbers. I think seven of the players who started that game were there under Gerrard. And they've made 25 signings in that time. So you're also, yes, there is a PSR limit, but they've got to make sure that they're spending wisely. Gesson was a new signing. Obviously, you can understand him being on the bench, but there was Maatsen was on the bench as well, a fullback who likes to provide a lot of width. And it just felt a bit off.
This is a challenge for Unai Emery, isn't it? If Pete's right that they can't bring in the players that they talked about, that injection of Asensio and Rashford in January had such a big. This is going to be a challenge for Unai Emery this season, Gregor. If they don't bring any other players in.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just keeping the mood positive too, because I think everything that Pete's sort of spoken about there does just. It will seep into the squad and the players. They want to see the squad refreshed. Really.
Even the reactions to Jacob Ramsey, obviously losing an academy player, going to Newcastle, and the other players coming out and be like, "Well, this John McGinn saying it's the way football's going," and it's not wrong, but it sets the mood, doesn't it?
You do wonder about the sort of the logic of coming out and addressing the PSR issue quite so
but
strongly.
I
don't know.
In what respect?
I just don't know what that does to the.
It becomes
sort
an excuse
to
that
the
covers
vibes.
everything, right?
It's
like excuses everything.
Yeah. Everyone's aware of the situation. I don't know whether you have to. What did they hope to gain from it? Like, what was to be gained? I don't know. So I've still no doubt that Villa, whatever their squad looks like when the transfer window shuts, Unai Emery will have them competing for Europe.
Yeah, I've got faith in him.
Faith in Unai?
Yeah, I think so.
Because you were at the first home game, obviously 0-0 draw with Newcastle.
It's weird, isn't it? They did so well and came so close to doing brilliantly last season. And we were left thinking, well, they're in the Europa League. That's Unai Emery's thing, isn't it? So it's going to be a marvellous season. And just the mere fact of not having any excitement in the transfer window seems to have meant that the whole team feels a little bit low. And that's illogical, actually. It shouldn't. They should be thinking, we've got consistency. We know each other. We know how to rely on each other. We've got a great manager. But it has cast some sort of initial... I think once we got over this sort of annoyance of the transfer window for them, I think they'll go back to being very well organised and lethal when they can be.
It's not just no excitement, it's also a bit of uncertainty. Ollie Watkins has been spoken about all summer. Martinez looked like, he was crying his eyes out at the end of last season. He looked like he wanted to go. There'd been a few, Ramsey's another. So that's...
And Rodgers has been linked with other teams as well, even though he told Charlotte Dunk he's very happy at Aston Villa in an exclusive interview last week. Very interesting times for Aston Villa. Can they bring in a few players before the end of the window? Wolves too, their fans will be hoping to make some signings after another worrying defeat against Bournemouth. So as I say, make sure you keep up to date with all the latest transfer news on the Times website. We're going to take a quick break. No kazoos on this episode, but as Pete Rutz is here, it's a little quiz question courtesy of Bill Edgar. How many players have Chelsea used in all competitions since the start of last season? Find out after the break. Welcome back to the Game Football Podcast from The Times. I'm Tom Clark and I've got Alison Rudd, Gregor Robertson and Pete Rutzler with me. Pete, you requested a quiz question. Your answer to the quiz question, how many players have Chelsea used in all competitions since the start of last season? In Bill Edgar's column, your answer?
It was 42.
42, agonisingly close. Gregor, the answer was?
46.
46. 46 players used in all competitions since the start of last season, and all of them under the age 28. Remarkable statistic.
Name them, Pete.
List every single one of them.
Probably could do that.
Don't.
Let's not bother.
We'll do that in the outtakes episode at the end of the season. But let's talk about Chelsea. A huge win for them at West Ham on Friday night. A much needed win after that draw with Crystal Palace, Pete. just what Enzo Maresca would have wanted.
Yeah, really exciting as well. They played really. I think we saw some of the football that got everyone quite excited towards the end of their Club World Cup performances. Very fluid, high intensity, higher tempo. Obviously, coming into the game and losing Cole Palmer in the warm-up, it's just straight away, it's like, oh, Cole Palmer. But then you bring in someone like Esteval Willian, who was fantastic.
Yeah.
He's such a fantastic player. Just the way he sort of demands the ball, would drop into such deep positions, which, you know, as a young player coming into a new league, you think, well, is he going to take time to sort of build up the confidence to be demanding the ball off his teammates in this way? But wave after wave of Chelsea attack just started with him taking possession of the ball, distributing it left, right. Brilliant assist as well. They have so many attacking options. I don't think that's necessarily a surprise considering the way they've done their recruitment. But yeah, I mean, West Ham will get on to about how poor they were, but they certainly exposed their weaknesses. João Pedro's had a brilliant start. I mean, he was quiet against Palace. That felt like Chelsea of last season. But the fact that he played in the 10, just playing off the lap, and the two of them could work together.
That's why I thought he'd be such a good signing, because you can basically, he's that classic modern forward, isn't he? That basically play anywhere, which for this Chelsea team that rotates and twists and turns and changes all the time, to have João Pedro in there, he's going to be a fantastic asset, isn't he? Yeah,
he's done far better than I thought he would initially, like coming in and making such a swift impact.
But mention the big problem with Chelsea. Very annoying, because they didn't try and break the record. Why didn't they go for 10? They gave up. It was there.
Yeah, they did. They did, but I think there's also an element of, you know, actually they should have done it.
Trying to keep balanced and measured here, Pete Russell. He's like, nah, sorry, what am I on about? They definitely should have scored 10. But just very quickly on Chelsea's squad strength, we keep referencing, obviously, the window coming to a close. We've already mentioned there that amazing stat from Bill Edgar, 46 players used. Do you sense more changes afoot before the end of the window? They obviously need to get rid of Christopher Nkunku and Nicholas Jackson. Is that what we understand?
Yeah, so sales, they've actually sold pretty well, and I think they've kind of got a bit of respect for how they're able to sell some of their players. But they do, because of the UEFA settlement agreement, they do need to have a positive transfer balance to register players for the Champions League. So, which is why we've seen sort of Jackson and Nkunku be available. They want a permanent sale. You know, there are people willing to come in, like we mentioned Villa, but they're never going to pay money for Jackson up front in that way. But even just mentioning Pedro and the way he played, and, you know, Chelsea still want to make additions. Xavi Simons of RB Leipzig, Alejandro Garnacho, Man United. You know, they could do with another left winger option. They'd prefer to have two in each position, so that would make sense. But Simons, he's a kind of player who likes to play in those central positions, and you just wonder, is it worth spending another 50 million on a player when you've got João Pedro, who's quite versatile, can play in the 10, and just keep Jackson?
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
it's a very weird thing that's happened to Nicholas Jackson. He's suddenly become a completely crap player, when actually last season.
No, it's not. He just that sums up Chelsea's.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I think he's crap. I'm saying that this is a perception now that no one wants him and Chelsea don't want him. And last season, you had everyone talking about how important.
A lot of people want him. It's just they can't pay the money that Chelsea.
What would that be?
60, at least 60. I mean, it might change. But Jackson's Maresca spoke so highly of him last season. He made a massive difference to the team when he played. You know, he was signed having had a season at Villarreal. He's thrown in to be the leading man at Chelsea with no competition. Even last season, we spoke to Maresca. I remember asking him, saying, you know, do you think Jackson would be a better player if you had competition in the squad, so you could just take him out and rotate him? You're not relying on it. Didn't say yes, but he basically did in his response. Yeah. And then we've gone from a position where he's gone and said, I want 2 Jacksons in my squad to none.
But now I'm picturing Maresca singing "We All Dream of a Team of Jacksons."
Well, there was an element of that. But yeah, it's a big change, and that's the kind of aspect that you think, well, why are they doing? Why do they need a Simons? But
come on, Gregor, come on. You've been sat here like quietly shaking, rocking in your chair.
I'll just repeat it. Like, I hope I don't sound like a broken record, but I can't honestly envisage myself ever giving Chelsea credit for any success because of things like this. Jackson was signed and it performed pretty well last season, better than expectations probably.
Still good. And
he's for almost no reason, he's disposable. He's gone. Even looking at Chalobah as well. Chalobah last season was loaned out to Palace, they would have sold him if they hadn't had an injury crisis, and now he's playing. He's one of their best, probably the best defender. Like, there's no logic or like any. I said it before. Any consideration of like the human side of of this like factory farming, for want of a better word, at all. It's absolutely insane.
Oh my God! I can picture Gregor wearing a balaclava, going in behind a fence at Cobham and freeing all the players who are being mistreated.
Well, everyone takes a piss like that and go, I know they're being paid really well, and like they sign players from South America and they change their lives to give them money that will change them and their families' lives.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
But these kids are like 18 or whatever, some of them, and they also want to like make a career for themselves and have a successful football career.
No, I do. I agree with you. The nature of the way that PSR is working, it's turning the commodity nature of the players, of where you're just going, actually move him on a bit, and no one ever seems to like try and work out whether players are any good anymore. I don't know. It's just all a bit like, you'll shuffle him over there, and we get an extra 40 million over here and stuff. And as you say, Pete, you make a very good point. Like, why not just work with what you've got and play Jackson as a striker and play João Pedro behind him? And
Madueke was another one. He was like, so many times last season you think, he's developing brilliantly, and Maresca was, he had some little criticisms for him, saying he has to do more and whatnot, but he played him, and he was.
João Felix was another one, wasn't he?
He's gone.
How many clubs has he played for? And 2 since now. He's now already left.
Yeah, there's
Fans
never any
loved him as
certainty
well.
that the players they're bringing in are upgrades either. Like,
not?
it's just like a churn up by the end.
Absolutely mad. Anyway, let's move on, because we could talk about Chelsea and their players till the end of time, because, as I say, there's so bloody many of them. But let's quickly mention West Ham, bottom of the table, rooted to the bottom of the table. And our Sunday Times sports columnist Alison Rudd was writing in that paper this weekend, saying that the longer Graham Potter spends at West Ham, the more confused they look. And I have to say, I completely agree with you. It's not looking good for Graham Potter.
It's looking awful, really awful. And I think
it also looks worse as each game progresses as well. You
Yeah,
were
yeah,
watching
we
this
are-
game, and
yeah,
they get worse
yeah.
each time, and the
This
subs
is worse
make it
than it
worse.
was last season.
And it gets,
And
and
he's-
you're like, what's the plan here, Graham? I don't know what the plan is.
Yeah, and I think before anyone says, "Oh, come on, this is 2 games into the season," West Ham traditionally lift themselves for a game against Chelsea at their home stadium, even the new one. They really are up for it. And Sky Sports were desperately out and about trying to find fans saying, "Oh, Potter out," but they wouldn't. They wouldn't do it ahead of a game against Chelsea because they felt this was going to be a great night. Because we've done it before. We've lifted our game against Chelsea. It doesn't matter how many stars they have, they always wobble when we're up for it. So the fans were ready for it, but Graham Potter was not. He was not, because he's got it in his head, the sort of team he wants to play. It's called possession builder. It's like shorthand for what Arsenal are in a way. But why on earth would you have that as your mantra when you've got the resources you have at West Ham? And it's not like it's a shock to the system. West Ham are what West Ham are. They don't spend a lot of money on elite level players. So he's trying to instill some sort of technically gifted vibe where one cannot exist because he doesn't have the players for it. He neither has the personality for it. Sometimes a manager can have a vision and they actually push it forward a bit because they've got that force of personality that make players think, yeah, I can do this. But he's very downbeat. Again, before kick-off, he was asked what sort of game he expected, and I'll tell you afterwards. I mean,
Come on, Graham.
That's not inspiring because what you need playing Chelsea is a bit of inspiration. He wasn't giving it to them. It's drab. It honestly felt at the end that Jared Bowen is like somebody standing up at a Losers Anonymous meeting, because he brought into the fact that they'd shipped 8 goals. The interview didn't ask him about shipping 8 goals in 2 games. He brought it up.
Yeah.
I need to let the world know I understand how rubbish this all is. And he's your talisman player, and he's bereft. It seems ridiculous to say his job is on the line, but given he's had the summer to work out, he doesn't have his dream lineup. He has a lineup, and we're going back to that pragmatism word. Get pragmatic. tap into the good things at West Ham and try and, navigate a way towards mid-table for now. But no, they look on the slide, and the players do not look like they know where they're supposed to be or what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, well, you're a bit cautioning and saying, there's only 2 games gone and things. Martin Samuel, our colleague, writing on the Times website now that West Ham have 8 days to save their season, fail, and they are down. So there you go. If you think we're getting carried away, our colleague Martin thinks the relegation could be a candidacy for West Ham.
No, their midfield is just not well equipped for the league. Like it's just not. I think
it's also not equipped for what Potter wants to do. Either.
Well, even more so. I mean, his record I think is similar to Lopetegui after a similar amount of games. So it suggests the squad is clearly not designed for, as Alison's saying, the way he wants to play. Lopetegui's style and not that Lopetegui's was particularly enamouring, but I mean, it was what Ward-Prowse and Souček was the 2 pivots in midfield. That just doesn't make sense. There's no speed in there. The balance isn't right. They're not bad players, but you put them with someone who can do that running, and it's particularly the Premier League now. You need those players in the middle of midfield, and the fact that they don't have that, I mean, Chelsea just ruined them in those areas, and it will happen again unless they do make those changes.
Do need to make some signings. Let's talk about some of the games on Sunday then. Gregor, we're going to start with you. You were at Crystal Palace against Nottingham Forest. Second time in a number of days at a Palace game for you. Also, you've seen Forest twice now, so you're the ultimate person to get carried away about both teams and tell us exactly what's going to happen for both of these teams this season.
Well, nothing happened. The pitch mattered much compared to what was going on in the stands.
No, it was all about...
Let's be honest.
Yeah, it was all about what's going on in the stands.
Yeah.
Certain
not a lot of
very
which we can
colourful
actually...
banners,
not a lot of
which I'm sure you will have seen.
We can really talk about it that much.
Is that because you're scared?
Maybe.
Well, I'm actually glad that Evangelos Marinakis didn't go to the game, because I don't think he would have enjoyed it. Let's just say that was made very clear from the Palace fans. But that's clearly to do with the summer of angst that's gone on about the...
And the excellent either tweet or someone on the radio yesterday which called this game El Clasico, which, just in case anyone didn't see that joke, absolutely wonderful. Maybe my joke of the weekend. Definitely top work, whoever came up with that one.
So seriously, that overshadowed the start of the game.
But in case you're going to move on from that, do you think that Nottingham Forest were immoral in what they did?
Oh God, thanks for that. No, I wouldn't go as far as saying they were immoral, but let's lay out what they did. As soon as it became clear that Palace had earned the Europa League spot, Nottingham Forest sent a letter to UEFA seeking clarity over their multi-club ownership structure, because Evangelos Marinakis also has a multi-club ownership structure. He diluted his shares before the March 1st deadline. It's a token gesture, but this is what you have to do to comply with the rules. Palace would have had to have done that. I think it was the FA Cup 5th round.
It was earlier than that, wasn't it?
It was the Millwall game anyway.
Time, wasn't it?
I think it was whatever. It was early.
Yeah.
It's, you're being pretty bold if you say we're going to go all the way and win our first trophy in our history, and that's going to get us a place in Europe. So we better dilute our shares. Anyway, so clearly, I said in my piece that if the idea among Palace fans is that Marinakis kind of edged open the door to them sort of being able to replace Palace, then Marinakis kind of booted the door down off its hinges, because as soon as it was like an option, a possibility, they were very keen to walk through that door. And Palace then went to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, which is CAS, and their appeal, Forest had to go as a sort of and represent themselves, and they sent a 5-man legal team, and they were apparently they defended their interests very forcibly, shall we say. So Palace fans are not fans of Marinakis. I don't actually, it felt like quite confected, this whole idea of it being like a new sort of grudge match / rivalry. They don't like the guy who owns Forest. They've no problem with Forest. They don't like the guy who owns them because, as Martin described him last week, his elbow's out. And, as I joked to you after the news broke after Thursday's episode, I think I went a bit too quickly in
The news, of course, that Nuno Espirito Santo went into his press conference on Friday.
But that was the other thing
and
around
said,
this.
The relationship's not great, and you will suddenly start going. Poor Charlotte Dunker had written a piece about Forest's great start to the season and brilliant summer. That got canned. That's never going to see the light of day.
Yeah, and I said I was starting to kind of believe that Forest could be a success because he's making all these moves in the transfer market. He's backing up his bold words and all this. But he's so combustible, and the environment that he creates at that club is so elbows out again, as Martin's phrase was, that this is always possible. It can always blow up in their face as well.
How was Nuno yesterday? He had some. He seemed to have calmed down a bit.
Yeah, because there've been so many reports, and I can't say that. There've been so many reports emerging from various sources saying things like Nuno's trying to engineer his own exit now. He said that was absurd. Said that narrative is absurd. I will never quit. Like, we all need to get around the table. Him, Edu, who's the man who he's clearly had a bit of a falling out with. He's the global director of football, I think, for Marinakis' football empire. And Marinakis, they all need to sit down and sort out their differences. After, actually, he's basically saying after the transfer market closes, because we still need to sign a goalkeeper and 2 fullbacks. He said, first of all, we need to complete the squad. His biggest bone of contention has been he always wants a squad in place for pre-season. That's what he puts their success last season down to.
Yeah.
The whole squad went to Spain, were drilled in his very sort of clear tactics and philosophy, and we saw the proof of that. He wanted that to happen again. It's not happened. They signed 4 players at a cost of nearly 120 million in the last week. Good players, strengthen the squad, but he's like, it's going to take them time to get into the, to integrate them. So, I mean, even Glasner threw a bit of a bomb into proceedings after Thursday night as well. So, saying that we've failed to prepare for the obvious possibility that Eberechi Eze was going to leave, that Mark Gahey was also going to be coveted. We've failed to prepare. Like, it's no one's fault but ours. That's
Anything
what he said.
happen in the football, by the way?
Well, this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. It was felt like that before the game.
Yeah.
So in the football,
No. It's a 1-1 draw. Nothing
the most
really
interesting thing for me was watching Adam Wharton against Elliot Anderson.
Yes.
Because
England's 2 future midfield pivots alongside Declan Rice.
Yes.
It's coming home. Gregor Robertson, week 2 on the podcast, Alison, talking up England's midfield chances.
Seriously, Thomas Tuchel can shoehorn a bigger name in alongside Declan Rice. He can invert Miles Lewis-Skelly or Reece James, or maybe play Reece James. He can do all these things, or he can just play a really, really good young English midfielder who has developed enormously in the last 12 till 24 months or whatever. Either one of them. That is the thing that England have to do.
There you go. It's coming home. Gregor Robertson, week 2 on the Game Football podcast. We move on now to
great atmosphere, though.
I was going to say,
It was. I mean, even for all this, the vitriol and the spite and stuff.
Yeah.
What were the Forest fans giving back then? Aren't they not slightly embarrassed?
I don't think so.
We don't
I think
like
this
you
is modern
either,
football.
but we don't care. One of those friendly chants.
This is modern football and the tribalism. They were singing Marinakis, he does what he wants.
Oh, okay.
They were also singing about Nuno. There are some fans who are uneasy about Marinakis, but look at what they've done. Look at where they are now.
Yeah.
So
lot of politics, a lot of transfers. Let's talk about some actual bloody football, because this was my favourite moment of the weekend. Jack Grealish back on a football pitch again, which allowed me to do this on the cover of the Game. Just put a big picture of Jack Grealish's legs. There we go, holding that up for the camera in case that makes the video clips later.
The most famous shins in football.
The most famous shins and calves in football. What a wonderful sight, though. Absolutely brilliant to see Grealish back out on the pitch. Just getting the ball in any sort of space, you think something's going to happen. Gregor, as a defender, you must sympathise with this. That touch he does when he takes the ball down, that just slightly touches it out of his feet, that says to a defender, go on, I dare you. Go on, I dare you to think I've overrun that.
he has one of the best cushion touches.
Yeah, it's just like
in the league.
He doesn't trap it right in front of him. He puts it like 2 yards in front of him. That said, go on, try.
And then he keeps nudging it as well.
Nudge,
he keeps nudging it.
Go on.
Yeah.
See, it was just wonderful to watch. I absolutely love seeing Jack Grealish out on a football pitch. And again, the series so far, we're flip-flopping episode to episode. Last on Thursday, Greg, Everton struggling, lose to Leeds. Now it's all wonderful. They're going to sign Tyler Dibbling, Grealish, Dibbling and Dye behind a
That's
striker.
not a David Moyes forward line.
New Moisey. New Moisey.
I'm not sure about all of them in the same team.
Stick them all on the pitch, see what happens.
But it was like everyone knew it was going to be Grealish time. It's really because the cameras were on him as he came out carrying his little girl.
Yeah.
And she was waving and he was grinning like, "Oh, I'm enjoying it. This is nice. I'm glad I did this. I like this atmosphere. I like this new stadium. I think I'm going to be all right here." And the camera was on him. It was really strange. It was as if they knew this was his moment. And he played like he was playing for Villa, basically. And I know he's won everything with City, but there was something boyish about him.
Yeah, it was. And it was also that sense that Everton will give him that happiness. Yeah. And it was interesting him talking about it quite movingly afterwards about at City, kind of saying I'd stopped enjoying football because he is one of these mercurial talents, isn't he? He just wants to just play football very, very simply, just do what he does best. He just wants to be in a team where he's loved and with a manager who says, go on, Jack, go on, do what you do. And which just seems what it was going to be. He's going to play off that left wing. His teammates are going to give him the ball and he's going to make things happen. It seems very, very simple.
He's very, to have like Njai, I mentioned Dibbling coming in, Grealish, that kind of width with Everton.
Oh, it's mad, it's exciting.
But even like the stadium, it just feels big. Obviously, it is big, and Goodison Park was always quite intense, so everything feels like, condensed and emotional and whatever. This is expansive, so something expansive Everton football. But Njai and Grealish, two of the best wingers in the league. So
very, very exciting times. Jordan Pickford with another penalty save, now made the most penalty saves for Everton in the league. Gregor, Jordan Pickford, the most underrated goalkeeper in the Premier League.
Why is he underrated?
Because no one thinks he's good. Everyone takes the mick out of him all the time. Everyone's making jokes about him. Oh, Jordan Pickford, he plays for Everton. Oh, he's a bit crap, isn't he? Oh, if someone will come along and take him out of the England team. No one takes him out of the England team. Even we were talking about it in the start of the season. Oh, James Trafford, he's pretty tasty, isn't he? He'll get a move to Man City or Newcastle and they'll kick Pickford out of the team. Hamza's on, banging on about how great it is. No one can touch Super Jordan Pickford. And it's about time he got some respect.
Okay, well, you've given it until well done. Let's move on.
Good. Fine. Glad we're all in agreement with that one. Jack Grealish is wonderful. Everton are going to finish in the top half, and Jordan Pickford's the best goalkeeper in the Premier League. Good. Glad. Just very quickly on another growing theme, Alison, we talked about this last weekend. We've mentioned Forest there, playing in a lovely cream away kit. Brighton in a little lilac number. I'm really pleased about the renaissance of the slightly bonkers away kit in the Premier League. We said about Fulham's slightly JJB-inspired luminous green number a few weeks ago, and now we've got some more. I'm really excited to see what more comes for the rest of the season.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Absolutely lovely stuff. Let's finish with Manchester United against Fulham. I don't really know where to start with this game because I watched the first 10 minutes and because I was quite excited to watch Manchester United properly. I'd only seen the extended highlights of Arsenal, but lots of people, Hamza on this show, had said, no, it was good, shows positive signs. For the first 10 minutes, Alison, you were there, I thought, okay, fast-paced, nicking the ball back, Bumo, Cunha, looking good. And by the end of it, I thought, Amorim doesn't get till Christmas. I don't well, that's too strong. But, seriously, I thought, it's just I don't see what's changed since last season. But you were there. Would you agree?
As this is the end of the show, we have beautifully come full circle because it's about lack of pragmatism. Because Marco Silva said afterwards he knew exactly how United were going to play, and they weathered. It was a sparkling opening 20 minutes. It really was, and I thought, wow, this is Man United being thrilling, and Cunha, I defy anyone not to enjoy watching him. He is a joy to behold. But Fulham knew what to expect, and they dominated midfield. United did not surprise them at any point. So yes, United have some star players who can run at you and cause you problems through their individual skill. But as an entity, you're able to get to grips with them and then impose your own personality and style on them because they're not going to give you anything to have to calculate madly at halftime or whatever. So they're just going to keep going down the same path. Amorim said they forgot to play football after they took the lead.
We wanted it so much that we forgot how to play football.
Isn't that rather pathetic? I mean, how many games of football has he been in charge of? to know that you tell your team what to do when they take the lead. They do know not to stop
Just
playing football.
you mentioned that Marco Silva said, "Oh, we know what to expect." I thought it was also quite damning. Alex Iwobi in the interview with the Sky cameras as well, just kind of very simply picking apart the Man United game plan and said, "Yeah, they started quite well, but we knew we'd get space in behind their midfield and in front of the back three because we know the back three won't step out. So we kind of thought it would be fine." There's just no. As much as they started well, and I thought, oh, here, front foot Man United, just Fulham were like...
Who's he talking about? He's not talking about some team in the EFL Cup from League Two, is he? He's talking about Manchester United,
We've had our first, this is Manchester United.
So damning, really, when you think about it. And the contrast made it more damning to me, because they did start so well, and you thought, wow, they've bought well. I mean, no one doubted that Brian and Bumo and Cunha were going to be amazing players. They are amazing players, but they slowly sort of lost their way. I think Cunha has some odd walking stats. Doesn't he walk more than any other player in the Premier League? But anyway, he started walking, and Mbumo, I mean, me and Gregory disagree on this, but I don't think he's playing in the right position, and he looked a bit lost as well. You can't have two of the most exciting players in the Premier League looking a little like run out of ideas, don't know what to do after 20 minutes of the game have gone. But you've got to give credit to Fulham, who could have become like Aston Villa. They've not been refreshed at all.
No.
They're playing against a team that spent over 200 million in the summer. They've spent nothing except on a backup goalkeeper. And they've also had a manager who said, I would quite like to refresh the team, actually. But instead he made a virtue of that, so that they kept their patterns and their relationships. He's the master. I think he's the best manager in the Premier League at making substitutions. Marco Silva. So 17 subs scored goals last season, 2 already this season. He just knows when to bring them on and how to balance the team up and what he can, and he keeps everybody happy. So you sort of, and I think he does that because if you're not starting, you're going to come on and he's going to set up the team so that you can shine. So a team who spent nothing against a team who spent a lot again and have the history and the size, and it's little old Fulham who ended the game really. If any team was going to nick it, it should have been the home team, really, which does not bode well. And also Fulham, talking of kits, look like Real Madrid in their all white.
Fulham look like Real Madrid. There you go. There's a big hot take for Fulham early on in the season. But just coming back to Manchester United and Ruben Amorim, just a couple of stats. There was one that's been doing the rounds on social media. So I've just, for its absolute certainty, maybe go and check it. But it is absolutely remarkable. Gary Neville at Valencia. No, well, loads of people have done it. I'm pretty confident everyone's doing it. 28 games. Gary Neville at Valencia, 28 games, 11 defeats, 39 goals scored, 38 goals conceded. Ruben Amorim, last 28 games, 14 defeats, 30 goals scored, 45 conceded. I mean, because the other thing for me watching this game, I was thinking, right, this is, we talked about Arsenal and Tottenham, the two types of wins, beat the team that you're supposed to be stronger than, then play quite well against the team who are better than you. United play quite well in defeat against Arsenal, then play a team that, as you say, Alison, one of them spent 200 million, the other one hasn't. And I just looking at it going, yes, you've got Cunha and he's incredibly exciting. Yes, you've got Bumo and he's a brilliant player. But I was following Hamza's analysis on Twitter as he was there with you, Alison. He was saying like Dogu and Diallo were were the highest players up the pitch. The two wing backs, like miles high up the pitch. And then you're going, how are you getting the best players on the ball in the most dangerous areas? Pete, I actually come back to something you said on this podcast about, like Amorim, seems like a good bloke, great in a press conference, obviously a talented manager, potentially the biggest example of a square peg in a round hole by putting him at Manchester United.
Even the recruitment, I was just thinking like £200 million, right? Yeah, like the game was not rocket science yesterday. Fulham had 3 in the middle, they had 2. And one of the 2 in United was Fernandes, and the other one was Casemiro. Fernandes is playing in the wrong position because they've signed 2 forwards in Cunha and Bueno, and they've got Sesko coming in. They've got Mount's looked quite good, actually.
Mount played well.
He's looked quite good.
But he took him off.
Casemiro, fine. We've talked about him endlessly.
Kobbie Mainoo can't get in the team.
What's going on with Kobbie Mainoo? And then Amorim said afterwards, I was reading that, he said, he's competing with Fernandes for the same position. It's okay, so he can't play with him. The heart of that team is that you have a 2 in there. And if you're going to always play a 2 because he's playing this system, it's not going to change, it's going to be a 2, they've got to be good.
Yeah.
They've not signed anyone.
Yeah.
So
Another stat for you: the goalkeeper Altar Bayındır was the only Man United player to create a big chance against Fulham.
It was a good chance.
It was a good chance.
It was a good chance, but
good punt as well.
I mean, but also that's another situation as well where you've got Onana not playing, Bayındır, who's got to be one of the weakest backup goalkeepers in the league, starting. I mean,
the only certainty at Manchester United is that they will play 3-4-2-1.
Yeah.
Which makes
And
it really
and
easy for the opposition.
Again, yeah.
Yeah.
Again.
Because Fulham, yeah,
That comes back to what they said at the
Change
start.
setup.
That's the only certainty. Everything else.
Fernandes is also a problem, right? This is a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
he's your best player playing.
You do
take
wonder.
your best. It's like he thought, how can I make this even harder for myself? I'm going to take the best player, who, by the way, who got in a lot of people's teams of the season last season, Bruno Fernandes, even though Manchester United were so poor, was their best player, their talisman. I know, I'll put him in his worst, in a not his best position.
You go back to the fact that he could have left in the summer, and you do think maybe that would have been a good time. Not that, because he's been so important. He's been so important to them. You can't really criticise his impact last year. I mean, without him, they would have been in real bother.
Yeah.
But now you're in a situation where you're playing him in the wrong position. They need to reinvest in their midfield, and they talk about not having the money to do it. Or they've spent in other areas, haven't they? But
Careful,
I said that in the
careful
summer.
what we say though, because he's very sensitive. And if you bump into him and you don't say
My
sorry,
goodness.
he will miss a penalty.
That was ridiculous.
That was
Goodness.
nonsense, wasn't it?
But it less. I mean, because he didn't come out and say all that. But it was just the fact that you watched him after it happened. His head he just couldn't regain that composure and just redo your routine again.
I said in the summer that I thought
The game
you should
turned
have
at that
sold him.
point as well, didn't it?
And
Should
like-
have sold Fernandes. Yeah.
and like people kind of raised eyebrows at that, and it's just he's a great player, but I don't see where he fits in either of those. I don't think he fits in as a number 10 either, because he doesn't. You've got to lead the press. You've got to be really like in Amorim's system. You've got to be front foot defensively as well, and he's not that. So, and he can't. He's not at his best in a two there. Even if he did have someone with more legs alongside him, he's still not his best position. And then there's the whole thing about like he's the leader of the club. Like that just underlined that a bit yesterday. It was like he's a great player. I'll come back to that. He's a great player, but he's not. He shouldn't be the leader. I don't think he should be the captain of a football team. Like he's not.
Any football team.
No.
Very
It's just sullen and moody and like,
Yeah, he's too.
and
he's
it's
too-
like,
But they've got.
just gives off. It gives off a vibe of.
We've got Burnley at home, Manchester United next weekend. Burnley at home, newly promoted side. They've got to get like a couple of goals from Cunha or something.
I reckon Scott Parker knows what system he's facing there.
But genuinely, we don't want to go too. But if they don't win that game, he's in bother, isn't he? Going into the international break.
They've got far more attacking quality than they did last season. I think that they'll pick up more points. They'll score more goals, but they're not going to make the steps they need to make this
But
season.
everything else is
Everything else, yeah.
uncertain or a mess.
Interesting times for Manchester United. As always, I'm sure Manchester United fans have got views if you do get in touch with me. tom.clark@thetimes.co.uk. We'll leave it there. Alison Rudd, Pete Rutzler and Gregor Robertson. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you too for listening. We'll see you later in the week.